5, 6, 7, 8. Welcome back, party people. We were just talking for 30 minutes and then realized we hadn't hit record. Welcome to Smart in Public Season 3.
Season 3, 2026, baby. We're back.
It's happening.
It's happening.
New year, same old
shit.
Yep.
I can't believe I just looked at the clock as well. I can't believe we just talked for 30 minutes.
I can 100% believe it because I feel like we do it every single time that we take like 2 weeks off of not talking to each other.
Yeah. And I would say 30% of that chat was skincare.
Skincare, that's right.
Oh, dear.
It was definitely mostly skincare. How was your break? How was your time off?
It was lovely. It was so nice. We had, for the most part, really good weather in Sydney. And we just hung around at home. We hosted Christmas, which is always fun, / hard work, but fun. But yeah. Anyway, that was good. It was good. How was your break?
Yeah, it was good. Went to Scotty's parents' house in Tasmania. Yeah, we had the whole family together for the very first time in like 6 years, which was really, really fun. I ate a piece of mango cake and a piece of cheesecake every single day for 9 days straight.
It's just the best. That to me is Christmas. Like Australian Christmas. It's like pavlova for days.
Yeah. Like we didn't have a pavlova. I feel like no one could be bothered putting it together.
Yeah, fair enough.
So we thought it would be good to start out with a couple of case studies, right? Like we've got here's the thing. We have such a good season coming up. I'm so excited. We've got Ashley Mayer coming on to record next week. We have Brooke Hammerling on the week after. We've got people from every single AI company under the sun that's running comms coming on to talk to us about how they're doing that within their teams. We've got, just the full gamut.
I'm really excited. We've got some really good guests coming on. So yeah, I'm excited for season 3. It's going to be great. Less of us just doing talking and more guests.
I know. Well, I feel like it's nice when we get to catch up and people feel like they get to be in the room with us. But, it's always just better when we get somebody else in here.
Yeah, too. I love having guests. But yes, every now and then a little Katie special is not often.
So that's what this is going to be today. It's a little bit of a Katie special. We are going to do a couple of case studies. Do you want to go first? Because we also have not really told each other. It's a case study surprise episode. So we both have picked, here's how it's going to work. We both have picked one. Duffy is going to do one, and then we'll walk through and analyze it. I'm going to do one. We'll walk through and analyze it. So I don't know. Do you want to go first? Do you want me to go first? How do you want
to? Sure.
Okay, cool. Hit us.
So I wanted to do a little bit of a deep dive on South by Southwest, Sydney. Okay. So let me give you the little backstory. I'm sure most people are familiar with South by Southwest in the US. Yes. I believe it was started in Austin, very community-led, creatives, artists, bit of a mix like tech in there as well. Obviously became the huge phenomenon that is South by Southwest. And so as part of that, they started moving South by Southwest into different parts of the world as well. And so Sydney got South by Southwest, and when it first kind of came to Sydney, everyone was really excited because a lot of people in the creative industry, in the marketing industry and tech knew of the US one, and many people would travel over, but obviously it's a long way to go. And we want to try and foster that community here in Australia. And so I think people were really excited when it first came. Lots of brands really leapt in, but kind of had that wave of people were really excited. It had a really strong brand, and people were excited for it to build the community here. The first one was quite successful. Lots of people went, lots of brands got involved, really strong speakers. And I think that's partly because it was the first time they were sort of bringing it outside. They really invested in making it really successful. Mm-hmm. I think it has struggled a little bit in years over that to sort of maintain that sort of brand, equity or kind of a lure for people. And there was a
Yeah.
couple of, reasons that is, but that all kind of came to a head this year. So
Okay.
South by Southwest just happened. But in the lead up, there were quite a lot of people coming out being really critical of South by Southwest. And there's for a couple of reasons. The tickets were very expensive. I don't know what they are in the US, probably the same, but they had got up to like over $2,000.
Okay. I
And
think I want to say like 1,500 in
yeah,
the US. I
yeah.
don't know.
And so it's an expensive ticket, right? And
Yeah.
if you're either an individual creator or, in a small team, or you want to send multiple people, like that money is kind of racking up. I
Mm-hmm.
think the other thing that became quite apparent is like from a brand perspective, they wanted brands to sponsor and be involved. They wanted a lot of sponsorship dollars, but like you didn't get a lot as a brand, it was kind of like, oh, well, you should just be grateful to be part of South by Southwest. And I'm like,
Oh,
I'm speaking from what I've read, by the way. This is not my own, I haven't
I like
attempted
it. Give me the goss.
yeah, this is just me just reading people like and their opinions. So apparently, people were kind of annoyed at like the packages in terms of like getting involved as a brand. It would be very expensive, but there wasn't a lot that they felt they were kind of getting from that. And
Yeah.
then a lot of people wanted to create like satellite events around South by Southwest because it's not, as far as I understand, where it was being held, like it had a limited amount of space. And so if you wanted to do like a pop-up event and do something off the back of it, they would allow that, but you'd have to pay a license fee to them to use the brand, which makes sense.
Like if you wanted to do like an ancillary event or something
And
like
call
that.
it a South by
Yeah.
Southwest, right?
Okay.
I understand that because they have to protect their brand. They can't have everyone creating pop-up events that have no affiliation with the event. But I think a lot of people who wanted to do those events were sort of smaller brands that couldn't pay for the big sponsorship.
Right.
And apparently the license fee was very high to do that. And almost prohibitively so because you would pay the license fee and then you'd still have to host the like pick a venue,
Yeah.
pay for, all that sort of stuff. And so quite a few people came out and kind of said like, well, this isn't really in the spirit of this event. On top of that, they get a lot of funding from the New South Wales government
Oh,
because they believe it's a tourism kind of draw card for people.
okay.
And so they got government funding for this event, right? So the event people are putting on an event, South by Southwest people, asking brands to pay a ton of money, asking smaller brands to do these license fees for some like these pop-up events, but they're getting a whole bunch of funding from the government, and then they're charging people $2,000 a ticket.
Yeah.
And so a lot of people are kind of coming out and saying, well, if you're getting funding, which is taxpayer money, right? If the government's funding something, it's the taxpayers that are paying for that, then you should be lowering your ticket prices and you should be making it easy for brands to do a pop-up event and charge, $1,000 for the license or whatever. But I think it was like $10,000, $5,000, something high for the license. And so a lot of people were kind of like, well, this isn't really in the spirit of it. It's also a bit greedy, all of that sort of stuff. So that all was kind of going on in the lead up. Lots of people were coming out highly critical. The event happened. From what I've been reading, like it was a solid event, good speakers, all that sort of stuff. But they just announced this week, New South Wales government has cancelled or they've cancelled South by Southwest Sydney.
Oh, so they're not going to do it moving forward anymore.
Nope. Yeah.
Huh.
So I just think it's a really interesting one in terms of like thinking about festivals as a brand themselves
Mm-hmm.
and then how they interact with other brands. And also this like halo effect that South by Southwest had that really just disappeared. I don't know if I would love your perspective on like how it's perceived in the US still, but and I think the outcome this week is a demonstration that they really didn't play it right and maybe didn't read the cultural market right. Like there isn't a huge amount of money in this market. Brands aren't, there's not a lot of capital from that perspective. There is, but it's just not. And so I think maybe there was a bit of a misreading of like that piece of it. But yeah, I just thought it was a really interesting thing. And now it's no longer, which is kind of sad in itself, but maybe someone.
When you think about brand reputation as well, like that's just such an event is such a physical footprint of how a brand wants to be perceived as well.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so I think a good model of thinking about like what that could look like from an events perspective is like how there's TED and then the TEDx's. Like TEDx's are
I was
smaller
thinking
production,
too.
they're more, yeah, they're like more community like led. They are specific topics to the region. They all have local speakers, like that kind of thing.
Yeah.
So it kind of brings in that feel. I think, I mean, I haven't been to South by Southwest when I was living in Sydney, but I have been to it in Austin. It's the whole city. It's like all about the city. It's a huge production. It was really fun when I went. But you're right. I think that there is a nuance, especially with the government being involved for funding. And maybe that's where it fell down in the first place. Like just knee jerk reaction. It's like, what expectation are you setting by having the government fund the event?
Well, it's a hard one because I think the government should be funding certain things to come so that it is viable for these big festivals to visit places like us and we shouldn't always have to travel and all those things. And but I think when you do that, you've got to recognize the responsibility you have that you've taken public funding.
Mm-hmm.
So I would be, if I was South by Southwest, I would be thinking about, how do we balance that? Where do we pass on some savings maybe? And, individual tickets is a good one because it's like that then impacts really down to the individual who may not be able to afford to come. And there's ways you could probably do that. Like people could apply for a discounted ticket. Like maybe there's ways you can figure that out. I think the other thing that they underestimated is that I think they just felt the South by Southwest brand was strong enough that people would just be, and to be fair, when they first started, people were clamoring to get involved. Like brands were desperate to sponsor and like it was cool and it was like, oh, it's coming from Austin and da, da. I think that they felt that that would just continue. And I think that was a misreading of like people will only continue to invest if there's value that they're getting back because there's a lot of other options to invest in, right? As a brand.
Do you think that in general in Australia, people are going to events again or more?
Definitely more.
Sydney, maybe. I don't know, like if you have a.
I think Sydney, yeah. I think Sydney's like back and people are out and about. I mean, I don't have a good yardstick anymore because I go to defense trade shows. And I'm telling you,
I was going to say.
Go back. People go to defense trade shows. No, I don't know. I think so. I think events are back, but I think brands are spoilt for choice in terms of like where to put their money and because also it's a small market, right? So there's only so I just think you've got to be more than just like, hey, we're South by Southwest, we're cool, you should sponsor us. And I think that works for the first year. I just don't think that had longevity, and I don't think they thought about the value proposition going forward for a brand. And then I think this whole pop-up event thing was not well planned.
Yeah. One question that I have, I guess, that I'd like to get your thoughts on is like from a festival and a branding perspective then, like, do you think it is worth just having one and not doing the mini versions? Or do you think that the mini versions in local markets makes a difference still? Like, if you're going to, what's the Ron Swanson quote? Like, you don't half-ass a thing, you whole-ass one thing or
Yeah, that's a hard one because you think about like, because as I was thinking about this as well, I was trying to think of like what other ones have this same sort of like gravitas, right? I think the one that's really interesting to me now that I don't remember from like 10 years ago being that big, but like I feel like half the people I know now go to Cannes for all of the and like the awards there and all of the stuff they do for the marketing piece of it's got the Lions, I think it's what it's called. And I was like, well, you wouldn't do a mini Cannes, like like you wouldn't bring that here because it doesn't make sense, right? It's like part of it is it's part of the Cannes Film Festival. It's like attached onto that. It's like it's got a real celebrity vibe to it.
Right.
And you're on the South of France. I mean, So I was like, okay, so that's a good example of where like you just go all in and maybe you look at how do you sponsor people to get across? How do you like make it a global event but still keep it there?
Yeah.
I think there is merit to that in going, this is the brand, this is where it exists. let's make it the thing and let's figure out how we make it global but have it at the same location still.
Mm-hmm.
Or I think you genuinely need to hand over responsibility to a team in the market and
Yeah.
make it hyper local and make it easy and affordable for them to do it. Still
Mm-hmm.
protecting your brand, but I think trying to just replicate isn't going to work.
Well, no, I think when you're doing an event, it's an extremely personal, physical, like you are there at this event. You're
Yeah,
investing money, you're taking time out of your workday.
yeah,
Like you're showing up and you also expect a certain type of person to also go to that event so that you can make connections and build relationships.
yeah, yeah.
Um, and so that has to be done by a local team, I feel like, or a local extension of
And I'm
what
sure
that.
they had that, but I guess it's like um just trying to replicate the same model and maybe the same sort of funding model and all of that stuff, and again, I don't know the intricacies of, how they're doing it. I just think it was really interesting that in the lead up to the festival, their brand was being pretty hammered. And then it's like, then they do the festival, and then straight after the festival, literally, they've cancelled it.
It is an interesting
Yeah.
strategy in terms of like doing it and then right after saying we're not doing it next year, because I
Yeah.
think the message that that sends is it's
It
not worth
wasn't,
our
it wasn't
it's not
successful.
worth the bother. Yeah.
Yeah. But
Mm-hmm.
I also wonder if they'd got ahead of that earlier in the year when these stories sort of started coming out where people were cranky about the cost and all that sort of stuff. Like,
Mm-hmm.
I didn't see them really proactively trying to turn that narrative.
Yeah.
And I wonder if they'd really gone hard or changed changed their pricing or done something in that beginning bit
Mm-hmm.
when that was brewing. Because the government doesn't want to be associated with a thing where they've given funding and then everyone's being like, oh, they're just profit, they're trying to get profit, they're trying to, like, they're not going to
Yeah.
want to be part of that. So you
Right.
kind of, I just wonder if they'd been a little bit more proactive at that point to be like, do you know what, we've thought about it, you're right, we're going to offer a 20% off or whatever, I don't know.
Yeah.
But I think they just didn't seem to really be that proactive about it, and then
Mm.
it happened, and then you go, maybe they don't care. I don't know.
Well, I was
Maybe
gonna say, at the end of the day, this is a business. They made their money. It maybe with the government not giving them funding, they're like, well, it's not. It's more bother than it is a
yeah,
bonus.
yeah,
Like maybe we're just not going to do it next year,
yeah.
or maybe that's their business model is that they require government funding to be able to go locally
They
around the
probably do.
world.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and I think
So.
if I was them, I'd just be thinking about like where do we want to take the South by Southwest brand? Like what does that look like long term,
Hmm.
and and does it have longevity? How do we make it an event that has longevity? Um,
Hmm.
time will tell, but it's
Yeah.
not happening in Sydney.
Are people upset? Like, have you talked to anyone that's like
there's,
bummed?
there's like mixed things. Like I saw someone post on LinkedIn this morning that was like, well, that's a shame because there's not really an equivalent, I think because it has that unique, like it brings together a few different groups. Like there's lots of tech conferences, there's lots of like marketing stuff, there's lots of creatives, but there's not a lot that brings that world together
Yeah.
in a really like interesting way. And I think that's what they do really well.
Yeah.
And so I think a few people feel that that is a missing kind of community. But like a lot of people are like commenting and being like, well, let's just do our own. Like we don't
Well,
need
that's
this.
what I was gonna say. Yeah, like to
So I
me,
think
that's a
someone will
business.
create something. It's just a matter of when, probably.
Yeah, that's a business opportunity right there. Is like if
Yeah.
you know that there's that desire, but it can't be curated by somebody that doesn't live in Australia, then
Yeah,
why
or with all these brand
be good?
rules around using like just create a new one and then it's kind of, so maybe that'll happen.
Yeah, that'd be awesome.
We'll get a
Let us.
pin. I support a local version. So that's my case study. I just thought it was really interesting, and we'll see where that brand goes.
I love being able to look at events as brands and as like what does this
Mm,
say about a company, because I feel like it's like I mentioned earlier, it's just such a physical presence of like what
yeah,
that footprint is from a brand. So rather than messaging, like how are you perceived like in the physical world?
totally.
I don't know. I just really think that's interesting. And I feel like a lot of comms people also have that crossover with events and like
Yeah,
have to think about that
yeah,
long term anyway. Okay, I'll do mine now.
yeah. Do yours. I'm intrigued.
I've done it again where I've like done a bunch of notes. So like I'm
I love it.
I'm gonna try to set this up
Set the scene for me.
without sounding like a psychopath. Um, I'll just like set the scene because it's kind of three case studies that are merging together with like a trend of what's happening moving forward.
Okay.
Leave it to me to just overcomplicate
I'm
everything.
like, okay, sounds
But
good.
this all started because I read this article over the weekend, and it was talking about, so Donald Trump has this woman on his team. Her name is Margot Martin, and she literally follows him around the world filming everything on her iPhone. Like it's almost like she is like his personal brand for video. So like she is at the helm of uploading all of his video content. She does like quirky replies on his social channels. Like she's kind of the orchestrator of all things Mr. Trump. And I feel like it's really interesting because it's not just a social media or like a brand manager, or like a PR person. This is somebody that is literally shooting with an iPhone and doing like raw, authentic footage, and uploading it, knowing what his readers or like followers want to appeal to, and creating this like personal brand around him that is super authentic, and to the point where it's the president of the United States. He has this like 30-year-old following him around on an iPhone filming things, and he sees the value in that because he knows his audience and like what they want to consume and how important his own personal brand is. And I was like, that's actually crazy that the president of the United States has somebody following them around just for that. Because before, you would have thought about this really curated
Really,
message, and it
yeah.
would have like editing to it, and it would be in good lighting, and she's filming him getting onto a plane. He's got his butt uncovered in the wind and shit. I don't know. Like, it's just so much. And so that kind of got my wheels thinking, because we're already talking about personal brand and this almost like personal brand gold rush that is happening right now, because AI is like demanding from people that are the face of anything, including if you're a consultant or if you're a CEO or a founder or whoever, to have an authentic presence in the market, right? And so that just kind of got the wheels turning for me. And I was thinking about like, what does this actually mean from a comms perspective, and where the opportunity lies for people in the comms world? And just thinking about some of the recent like ads for work that we have seen, like, or what is that called? Job openings.
I was like, what? Job ads.
This is what happens. This is what happens when we talk for 30 minutes before we start recording.
Yeah. Our brains stop working.
All the juices have left. So when you're seeing like JDs out there for like $300,000 at Vanta for like a chief storyteller or whatever, like we're starting to see that like people need comms, and they're putting their money where their mouth is, because AI is turning everything into the same. And anyone can be a good writer now. So if content, and like my hot take is like content is dead. Like everyone can be a thought leadership article writer. Everyone can have their own blog. Anyone can write something pithy or do a LinkedIn post or anything like that. So if content is dead, where are the stories going to land? Where are they going to come from? And where are personal brands going to stand out? And so that is kind of like where my head is at going into this year. And I think that article was the tipping point. I dug into it and then found like OpenAI is hiring like people for 500 grand on salary. Like Vanta is hiring that chief storyteller. Like
I'm really enjoying this. Keep going.
Let me stop and get a touch base. Is this worth publishing on the podcast?
I think you're unpacking a few different issues.
Okay, help me unpack this, because I feel like I'm emotionally starting to dig into this, and I need you to bring me back to reality.
Well, I think the Trump thing is really interesting. I think we have definitely seen a shift in the expectations of what political leaders will do and share, right? So like Trump is the extreme example, okay, where he's got this person following around. We're seeing so much stuff. I mean, but also I would say Trump's the extreme example because they also do these like crazy memes and using AI, and like it's just a lot going on with that personal brand. But in general, I would say we're seeing like political leaders doing more on social, even here, they are understanding that to reach different audiences and in general what people are expecting, to your point about authenticity, there's got to be a lot more in the moment content, not that kind of polished, I'm going to do a press conference, that's what you're going to get and that's it, or I'm going to take a photo on the plane and on Air Force One, and then someone will edit it and then we'll release it a week later, and like that right. I think that is definitely changing. I think it's probably an interesting case study for CEOs and founders to think about how they could share more of like their life as like an authentic, not their private life, but as in like same sort of thing. Like, are you curating things too much? Like, do people want to see a little bit more raw, a little bit more like, that kind of thing? I think you made a really interesting point about like, I think Trump 100% understands where his audience is and what they want.
100%.
And like, whether you agree with him or not, I think he totally understands that and has put people around him who understand that world. Younger people, people who live and breathe it. So I think there's a lesson in that for people. But I think it's an interesting one. Then I think what you're saying is like, there's this second trend, which is linked to that, which is like this rise of the storyteller. And that role in a business. Yeah. We didn't see those roles 5 years ago at all.
Well, the specific language as well.
That's what I mean. Yeah, there was versions of those roles, but that idea of like a chief storyteller.
Yeah.
Which kind of to me, I'm like, so where does that role sit? Where does it, and like a business, like how does that work? Like, are they a writer? Are they like,
I also think
just called a storyteller? Like, I don't know.
I also feel like by the time you hear the word storyteller coming up in like that Wall Street Journal article and like you hear it so much on Twitter, there was like the new SaaS is storytelling as a service. And oh my God, you should have seen VC Twitter was a flutter. And
that's bad.
Yeah. And then you see roles like this. But what this actually tells me is that people actually don't know what we do. And thinking about a personal brand and what that looks like for the president or a company or for a founder, I think what that means is people are looking for real, rugged, like expression, honesty, like people want the truth, because I think that it is getting harder and harder with AI to tell what is the truth and what isn't, whether that is a article that's written in Claude or it is a video that you didn't see the Sora logo on it. I think the more real and the messiness and the ruggedness that you can get from, your jacket flying up and you have a, like a dirt stain on your butt as you're getting into Air Force One or shit like that. I think people gravitate towards that because people are missing the humanity of everything that is happening in the way that we talk about business, each other, and all that in between.
I think that's true. I challenge that content is dead.
Oh, I love this. Okay, let's get into it.
Because I think content is just a word for like stories in some ways, right? So like a real video from Donald Trump is still content, but I know what you mean. It's kind of that everyone can now create mid-level content is what I would call it. Like a good piece, like not bad, like a good thought leadership piece, a good article. I think what people are missing is that like the realness, the ruggedness, the authenticity, but also when you read a really good piece of writing, like a really thought-provoking, investigative piece, or you've got a journalist who's embedded, and breaks a story that maybe the government doesn't want told, like I think there's still room for that. But I think we have to protect it and we have to like figure out how we're going to distinguish between the two and how we're going to protect journalists who are really good at that. I was thinking about like in Australia, we've had a big investigative look into daycares here. There's been a lot of issues around child sex abuse and all this sort of stuff. And like we've got a program here called Four Corners on our public broadcaster, and they broke the story first and they did a huge investigation. That's really good content and it's really important content. Like we need those stories. So I just think we need to be like recognizing that we're in this world of like subpar content, that there's a whole bunch of crap essentially, and like readable crap, approachable crap, but like it's not that next level. And then you've got this like authenticity piece, which is like I really think people are craving, to your point, realness, like not polish, not is it real, is it not real, it's fake, is it AI, I can't tell. I think people want that. But like this idea, and like going back to like the chief storyteller thing and like this, you know, the rise of the storyteller, like stories have been told since the dawn of time. So like storytelling is not new, storytellers are not new.
Yeah.
And I think like with everything, it sounds good now because we're in an age of AI where there's a lot of crap.
Yeah.
But really, comms people have been sifting through and have been finding the right stories to reach the right audiences, you know, with the right, pull the heartstring, you know, or use data or whatever the tools are to make that story compelling. And journalists have been doing it for forever. So, you know, sometimes I'm just like, guys, this is not new. Like, this is just, you know, I don't know. I'm cynical.
What's funny is the comment that you're making is the comment that I saw every single PR and comms person making on Twitter of like, so are we cool again? Does everyone know?
Yeah, like, are we back? Yeah.
Also,
maybe $500,000 to do it? Sure.
100%. And also, it was funny, Ashley Mayer had, I thought, the winning tweet on the whole kind of conversation as well, because it was like all the A16Z guys and, you know, they were all talking about like storytelling as a service, blah, 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 hiring everyone needs a chief storyteller. And because Ashley believes that your CEO or your founder is the spokesperson of your company, she was like, hey guys, who's going to tell them that they already have one?
Yeah. Like, that's what I mean. Like, I
snaps around the world.
I mean, maybe it's redefining, because in this world where like a lot of content can be created by an AI and a lot of writing and all that sort of stuff. My challenge to brands would be like, outsource that stuff that is run of the mill that you need to create for your business. That's fine. Have AI do that. But like that won't win you the hearts and minds. Like that's where you need whatever you want to call it, a storyteller, comms person. And I tend to agree with Ashley, like it's not going to be that person telling the story. They're going to be curating what the story is. But
if you know who your audience is and you know what your purpose is as a founder, you should be able to talk to anyone until you're blue in the face and make that person understand why your company exists.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think storytelling personally is such a cringe. I don't know. I'm just like, that is so vague and dumb. Like we are better than that as comms people. We need to take back our own narrative and get rid of the storytelling.
And also a lot of our role is like, sometimes it's about not telling the story, or do you know what I mean? Like it's like, okay, so like you know, I think it's but maybe those roles are sort of an amalgamation of like an editor type role, a past journo, someone who kind of really understands hooks and news and all that sort of stuff, and a bit of a comms thing. So maybe they'll sort of, it'll be an interesting bit who goes for those roles and who gets those roles.
Yeah.
I just wish we could, like, I think comms is more than that. It's a big part of it, but I think it's more than that too.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, I honestly think it is like the hot button thing, and therefore it's like, okay, cool. We've got a storyteller now. Let's go tell some stories.
I think,
I don't know. It makes me cringe. Yeah. I just don't like it.
Also, coming back to content is dead claim, like I think for me, when I say content is dead, I mean right now, writing, anyone can be a good writer right now. And for me, what that means.
You think so? You think it's good writing? I mean, I'm not saying it isn't. I'm just interested in your perspective on that. Like, do we think it's good writing?
Well, I don't know if it's necessarily good writing, but I do see a lot more writing. more
Yes,
people are writing than ever
100%.
before. And it's
Yes.
kind of like the trend is if everyone's doing it, the trend is dead. And so right now I'm
Yeah,
like, everyone is writing because
yeah,
everybody can now,
that's true.
even the bad writers. And so I'm
That's
saying content is dead for now. And by content, I mean written word.
written word. Yeah.
It is dead for now because that is oversaturated. Like if you're thinking about like how is my executive going to stand out right now, maybe it's not a byline. Maybe it is
Oh, yeah. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
like
That's true.
go yeah, it's not a blog. Maybe it's not even tweets or anything like that. Like what
Yeah.
is it? Is it video? Is it a speaking opportunity circuit? Like I don't know that even those answers that I just gave were so shit. But you know what I mean? Like think about what is the differentiator that you can be thinking about because the easy answers that we used to fall on now are not going to be the right answers.
Well, I think it's genuinely like cutting through that mediocre stuff that we're now like because to your point, everybody's writing now. Like
Mhm.
that and yeah, like people that you'd be like, you should not be writing stuff can write now because they've got a tool. So
Yeah.
I think I would be as a business looking at like other forms of communicating, like video, but video in an like in a different way, not just like
Yeah.
a polished video that but I also would be looking at like who do we have in our business that's like really unique or different or has a really unique skill set
Mhm.
that could become a little bit more of that like expert type. And I can't remember who we had on the pod that was talking about this. I think it was the guy from Medium, but he was like,
Tony.
yeah, Tony was like, go and find those people in your business that are
Yeah, it
like,
was Tony.
yeah, it
Yeah.
was like, you know, the guy that like knew all about chain link fences or whatever. Yeah, like I think that was what it was great. Go listen to that episode. That was a great episode. But yeah, I just think we're gonna have to cut through somehow.
I think, yeah, the
There's going to be different ways to do that, but yeah,
personality hire slash subject matter experts.
yeah.
Yeah.
And then I don't think your answers are shit. I think like thinking about speaking opportunities where it's like you are you and you're on stage and you're doing community events, like
I always
do something that's a
gravitate
little
toward
bit different.
I always gravitate towards speaking because personally for me, I like to learn from people when I am looking at them and hearing them and seeing them be
Yeah.
passionate and interacting with other people. So like for me, typically when I hear from a founder or a CEO and I like walk away from a conversation, um it's either because they were on a panel where they were like vibing or like, you know, going head to head with somebody on it, or it's because they were in some kind of broadcast interview and they were the only personality in the room. And I'm like, oh, we need more of that guy, you
Yeah.
know, like, or gal, you know? So I just think that that's,
Dang.
yeah, like Josh Brown on CNBC. Every time he does an interview on there, on, I'm just like, just give him a whole show.
Give him a shot. Um, oh, that's so interesting. I've just had I was meaning to tell you about this, so I don't know if it's like a tangent, but
Let's do it, babe. Let's do it.
I was just thinking about storytelling, right? So uh yesterday I had a film crew in from a big broadcast channel. We're doing something with them, and they bought the camera guy, and then they brought a sound recordist with them.
Mhm.
And I was chatting to him, and he was like, "Oh, like he's full time at this network." But he said, "Yeah, it's really rare. There's now two shows that have a full time sound recordist." And he said, other than that, most of them are contractors. And he said, and on top of that, technology is getting so good that a lot of shows don't need one.
Mm.
Um, and so he was like, I do not know where my job will be. Like it may not exist. Like he's like, I'm one of those people that my job may not exist. And he's like, I only like know how to do this. He's like, this isn't my whole thing. You gonna say hello? Hello.
Hello.
For those listening, Noah has had two pop-ins for the podcast. Um,
I'm not complaining. I enjoy it.
it's listen, the joys of school holidays. I just find it really interesting. And then the producer that was there was like, but you've got to understand, like, our story is so much better for having him on site, like listening while we record and like making it better. And she's like, that's just one example in news and broadcast of like jobs that
Mm.
will not exist. And so I just think we're in this really interesting time because he's really talented, right? And he's dedicated his whole career to this. And we were just laughing because he was like, maybe you guys will hire me. And we were just having a joke about like this kind of, but I was like, wow, this like, and he's lucky, right? He's got a full time, but like, they were telling me like the news programs don't even use one now. And like, yeah, it was just really, really interesting in terms of like the state of media.
Yeah.
I think all of this leads also this conversation we're having is like, if we're all creating authentic content and we're all doing our own, like, where is the media going? And like,
Yeah.
there is a huge swathe of people in the media who are not just journos, but like these supporting functions that are around traditional media that are just disappearing.
Yeah. Well, and there's a really interesting, I can't remember if it was a like a YouTube podcast that I recently watched. I can't remember if it was from Every or if it was from Dave Eisenberg. But one of these guys was interviewing a guy that owns an LA production studio that does commercials and action films and all this stuff. And the guy that they're interviewing that owns this production house, who is like a big deal, like did a whole series of commercials with David Beckham, like all this kind of stuff, was using AI for like 90% of it. And he was like, the hard part is the technology is advancing like every single week. The techniques and the technology that I am using will be outdated in 5 days, and I will need to learn how to use it all over again. But the point is that we can,
Yeah.
because like once you get that basic knowledge down, you're able to create this amazing kind of content in the Middle East without having to be there, creating all this amazing, like all of this stuff. And it was really interesting, the mindset that he had around it, because it was very much opposite of the camera guy or the sound guy you're talking about. Like,
Yeah.
instead of saying, I'm scared of what's going to happen,
Yeah.
this guy was like, all right, we're pivoting our production house. We're using AI technology we still have actors, but they're put in different scenes. It's all AI produced, and we're going to keep up to date with this technology. And here's how we're going to evolve with the market. He's like, and now it takes us
As
like
part of that, does he have a much smaller workforce now as part of that?
I don't know. I don't know. I can't remember what they said about that. I mean, I imagine, yeah, but like,
Yeah.
it's an
I think,
interesting. I'll add the link into
yeah,
the
let's add the
because
link.
it was
That's
super
super interesting.
interesting. I remember Scotty and I walked away from listening to that, and we were like, "Holy shit!"
Well,
Like,
yeah, because like I was reading something the other day about visual effects, and like basically that those people that do that are also pretty much, it's a dying industry because not
but you
industry.
just gotta get smart with it. Like, I don't know. I feel like an optimist on it. Like, I'm like, if you can, if you can evolve quickly and learn, then you can survive. Like anything, Like,
I think that is absolutely for someone maybe in their 20s, who like I worry for people who've been doing a job for a long time at the learning curve. I think it's doable. I think like if I think about this guy yesterday, like I think he could totally pivot and learn something new and like adapt and all that sort of stuff. But I just don't know if there's a job there. Like as in um I just think I feel for people like that. I just think it'll be really interesting to see as this all nets out. And a lot of these trends in history have created more jobs, right? So it's like
yeah.
they're different jobs, but then there's jobs. That's probably going to happen, I would imagine. But I just hope we're thinking about, the individuals at the end of all of this. Yeah.
I agree. I think it's either going to create more jobs and we're all going to fucking figure it out,
Be fun.
or people are going to be like, this is all shit and it's ruining our lives. And maybe we all
need to wind back. Or
back to the Blu-ray DVD.
Yeah. VHS even.
Predictions that I had, I was like, everyone's gonna get burnt out on LLMs, and like it's gonna be like really cool to like write.
Yeah. To like pick up a pencil.
You know what's crazy though is like, even if you are a good writer now, because everyone can like kind of write, even if you are a good writer, no one's gonna believe that you wrote it. Like,
that's what I think is really interesting. Is like
even sometimes when you write something, you are like, there deserves to be an M dash here, but I'm not going to put it in.
I'm not going to put it in because everyone was saying that. Yeah. I also like, I'm annoyed that some words that I use quite a lot are now considered like AI slot words. I'm like, no, that's a good
Wait,
word.
what are your
You
words
know, I
that are
can't
AI slot
now I'm
words?
like, what are the words? But like, you know, you're just
You know
like,
what
there's
I
these
loved
words.
was I genuinely used this what before AI and now I can't do it anymore was, but you know what it's not? It's this thing now. Like,
Oh,
like that whole
that's
sentence
exactly it.
structure.
It's not this, but it's this. And
Yeah, you may be thinking that it's this, but in actuality it is this. I'm like,
that
I
is it.
genuinely talk like that and have been
Yes.
writing like that for years.
Yes.
And now I'm like, how do I put this into a sentence that
I
doesn't look
want to
like it?
say, like, look, it's probably laziness as well, but there are certain words that you just know, like, work in people's brains, right? And
Yeah.
most people, we have been using them, like, for a while. I'm trying to think of one, but it's probably like something like pivotal, you know? Or like, you know, these kind of words where you're like, I need to make this sound, you know, and you kind of, I can't think of them off the top of my head. That was the one that came to mind. But there's so many now where I'm like, I'll put it in and I'm like, nah, I can't put that in because it'll be AI slot.
You know, it's something that I never used, but I see everyone using now is the hard truths or the uncomfortable truths. And I'm like,
Yeah.
you
Yes. Yeah.
guys.
The one that I hate that I never use, well, I probably have used it, but I don't like using it, but is also AI, is unprecedented.
Really?
I'm
See,
happy for that to go.
I unprecedented is my pandemic trigger word. I feel like everyone was using that in the pandemic, and now I'm like, if anyone says something is unprecedented, I will jump off this building.
The ones I agree with are like groundbreaking. You know, like it's not groundbreaking. Like, so there's a few words that I actually agree with that now are innate, and I'm like, yeah, that's good. Let's get rid of that anyway.
Basically, all the words that journalists were like, stop putting this in your press
Yeah,
release.
yeah, exactly. That's your litmus test. Anytime you did a press release and people were like, well, it isn't, or it's not, or you know, you'd be like, okay, they're all, but that's all in AI now. Like you can read something and be like, you did not. That's, you know, this pivotal moment in the ground release. Like, oh god,
Oh no.
but they'll get better. That's the thing. They're gonna get better. They're gonna learn.
They're already better. Have you used
Yeah,
like Claude is blowing my mind more and
yeah,
more every single day.
yeah. Like
Claude
that's
is
the thing is
crazy.
like it's not going to be long before we won't be able to, I think, tell at all.
Think about this though. I'm reading this book called Dose, and it talks of doses like dopamine,
Oh yeah,
oxytocin, serotonin, and endorphins, and like how they affect your brain, and like the whole caveman brain thing, or whatever, lizard brain, or whatever we're calling that. I don't know. I'm not very far into the book, but it's such a, you think
I'm on
about
page
like
one.
last night I was reading that 90% of like humans being on the planet, we spent 85% outside or time
Yeah,
outside. And
yeah,
now we're only spending like, oh my God, I'm gonna fuck this number up so bad. But it was something appalling. Like we're only spending like
2% of those.
7%
Yeah.
outside. Like it's crazy.
Well, I just
Think
heard
about what
this.
that does to your brain, which is my
Yeah.
point of think about what LLMs are doing to your brain.
Well,
They're
this is
making me dumber. I feel like when I use one, I then cannot correct it and like think past it.
well. There's this whole research at the moment around. They now have a generation of children who've grown up with screens their whole life, right?
Mhm.
From birth. And so they've been doing all this research and they've been doing brain scans and their brain matter has changed. So
So
they
scary.
have comparable brain, and like I'm gonna again, we're the worst at this. Like I'm sure I'm gonna fuck it up, but essentially,
Correct us.
the grey matter in their brains is different, and it's reduced. So like when, and it was in 3 and 5 year olds that they were
Wow.
looking because they'd been, and I'm like,
Yeah.
that's that's pretty. And so like I think all of this is just really interesting in terms of like where we're headed in terms of technology. To your point, like, is there going to be a backlash at some point? I mean, we're already seeing there's like quite a big backlash around teenagers and phones and like going back to like a Nokia 5110 or whatever. In Australia we've got a social media ban now. You have to be 16 and over. Um,
Mm-hmm.
a lot of the world is watching how that goes. Similarly, I think for AI, it's like we are starting to rely on these things so heavily for a lot of things.
Yeah.
what's that going to do to us? And this is like, we're getting very like, philosophical here, but like,
Yeah, like is
I just
this
think it's so
episode
interesting.
helping or hurting?
I don't know. I'm lost. I don't know. But I do think it's worth discussing. I think it's very interesting. I think it's very interesting as comms people to think about language and stories and all of that
Yeah,
stuff.
we've got comms people coming on this show that are from, some of the best known AI
Yeah,
companies all through season
can't
3.
wait.
Like these are questions that we should be asking.
Absolutely. We should not be driving this. But that's why I'm excited to have them on, because I think it is really, I want to understand how the comms people within these companies
Yeah.
are thinking. And
Yeah, how
ironically,
are
they
they
will have
using it?
comms people. Like,
Yeah.
so it's just, I think it'll be great this season. I'm really looking forward to it.
Yeah, same. Okay, so I don't know how many like practical tips came out of this episode. I do
Probably
not know
none.
if it was helpful or hurtful, but what I do know is that we are back, baby, and that was fun.
We are back, baby.
Do you have a dumb and private?
No, but I have a funny thing to tell you. So
Okay,
this will
tell
be
me.
my sort of, it's not a diamond private, but it's also just like, who am I now? So we have a factory in Sydney, my company. And every time I go there, I get in trouble because I'm not wearing the right shoes. And it's very important for safety, right? Absolutely, I should get in trouble. But I'm also like, I'm the comms person. Like, I pop in when needed. Anyway, I was like, do you know what? This week's the week. And I went to Bunnings, which is like our Home Depot. And I bought myself some steel cap boots, my friend. They're a vibe. Yeah, so I now have my own boots for the factory, which I'm super excited about. I'm also like, who am I with these steel cap boots? And then, of course,
100%.
like, what do you wear with a steel cap boot? I'm sure no one else thinks about that, but I was like, no, because I've got really short legs. And so a steel cap boot with the wrong pants, like, it's just
Yeah.
not hard.
Well, are the steel cap boots, are they like high? Like I'm imagining
Yeah,
like a
like
high,
above
like the
the
base of
ankle.
Doc Martin.
Kind of like a what are those
Bloodstone.
ones like the Kardashians? Oh my god, I'm gonna get them wrong. Yeah, maybe they're Bloodstone. You know those like camel colored boots?
The Timberland boots.
They're kind of like that, but it's
Okay,
still
cool.
boot.
Oh, you could do that. Like that could work.
I did it with a leather legging and an oversized white t-shirt, just so you know.
Oh my God.
It's a
That's
vibe.
fashion. That's Missy Elliott. 100%.
Yeah. But yeah, so I now own steel cap boots. Who am I? I don't know. But I thought you'd enjoy that little anecdote.
You've
I'm
committed to that role. I can see that.
Absolutely. I can visit the factory anytime.
If anyone at your company was worried if you were ready to commit or not, now they know.
That's right. That's right. The best was going to Bunnings to buy them. I felt very like.
Did they judge you?
No, Bunnings are great.
Good.
But there's like a sausage sizzle on the weekend. It's a whole vibe.
Yeah, delish.
Bunnings is great. I'm there almost every weekend because
I
they
love the
also
smell of
have a
Bunnings.
playground for kids as well, just in case any parents need an activity on a rainy day. That's just I just felt really proud, like going into Bunnings, getting my like steel cap boots and putting them through the register. I was like, yes, I'm buying these.
Proud of you. I'm proud of you.
Really enjoy that.
Maybe you should take a photo of your outfit and send it to us. Well,
okay.
Happy season 3, everyone. We've got a really good one coming up. We're so excited.
Can't wait. And yeah, we'll talk to you soon.
Okay, goodbye, everybody.
Bye.